Hello, this is Buffermanagement speaking, founder of the Dolphin Universe and part-time programmer for smaller apps. But better to say, I use, of course, AIs for doing this stuff. Today, I just want to show you the latest app. It's all about managing agile or classic releases or whatever in combination with critical chain buffer management. And it's very simple and it's straightforward. So you just can enter the reliable release manager base 44 app URL and then the login screen, or not, it's not a login screen. The setup screen is opening. You don't have to log in. So you just have to type in a release name. Oh, it's just today, huh? So we have something around this, huh? And the velocity base you can set up too. There are, of course, weeks and hours for agents. So this is not just an app for humans. It also has an MCP interface for agents. So you simply create a release, and that's it more or less. If you are used in Agile, of course. So the first thing is you add the backlog items, huh? To make it simple, huh? Item number one, and then you have to give the points, story points or apples. I don't care about this so much. So let's simply make it 20. So we have the first backlog item, the item number two, to make it easy, make it 10 or something like that. Now make it also 20. It's easier to see. So up 21. That's also okay. So you have two items. And that's more or less a very simple backlog. The next thing is, of course, you have to do some rough planning, huh? And this already starts a little to be different. So we have the time scale, of course. And I just to make it very simple to have it at the beginning of a month, the 1st of June. And we start at 8 o'clock, huh? Old school, 8 o'clock. So, and now you have, of course, to estimate roughly your velocity. You assume some velocity out of the past or just give it a try, estimate. You can change it anytime. So for example, here to make it easy to calculate, I just take 10. And now the first part of critical chain comes in. So in critical chain and in agility, by the way, too, you assume that no estimation is fixed. So there can be new items or something can go wrong. You don't know. But to be reliable and agile, you have to have some agility reserve. In the most biggest project, it's something around 30%. Here, just to make it a little easier to calculate, I just take 50. Normally, it's something around 30%. That's a good rule of thumb. And then you can calculate the dates. Huh? So you see, the start of this release or working on the release is June 8 o'clock, and you have something around 40 points and 10 per day. That means 4 days later. And you see this one single point on top that leads to 10, 20. No one cares about this. And the agility reserves leads to, of course, a little more time. So this is a time you promise to your stakeholders. So now the backlog is there and the scheduling is there. And now you start monitoring. And it's not a burn down now. It's something how combined a burn down with a buffer consumption. So anytime you want, you can simply do a new logbook entry. I typically start with one that's called start of working on the release. And because I said the 1st of June, then I have to start on the 1st of June, of course. Huh? And it's 8 o'clock, and the start is 8 o'clock, of course, too. And the velocity it was 10. So it's exactly like this, and the items are not started. So we have 41 remaining backlogs points. The estimated time and everything is like expected. The progress is 0, of course, because you have not finished anything. And the buffer consumption is, of course, 0 because everything is like estimated. And now you can save this logbook entry, and you see already the fever curve occurring. So, and the fever curve shows you on the x-axis the progress. It's a burn down, more or less. No, it's exactly the burn down. And the buffer consumption on the y-axis. And the expectation is the yellow line here. If everything went well, so you have progress, and each time you have progress, you can consume, of course, buffer because something is changing. So that was a start, and typically you do the first stand up, something like this, and it's 10 o'clock. And of course, you started the first item, and then something's happening, and that's an act of will. We assume that if you set an item into progress, then it assumes that half of the stories are already burned. That's not right, but this estimate anyway. So in this case, this leads, of course, because it's so early, so no progress and no buffer consumption, and just give it a name, set item 1 in progress, and then you have the second point on your fever curve. In this case, it's on the same point. So what's next? Okay, maybe next day. So day 2. It's of course the 2nd of June. It's again after the stand-up, but unfortunately there's a sickness wave coming around, and the velocity is just half. So maybe it's not so strong. A few people can work better, and just a internship guy was sick or something like that. So the velocity is down to 7, and you already see, okay, the progress is still 0 because you didn't finish anything, but the buffer consumption is already high because of the sick leave. So next entry could be, okay, some progress. You're on the next day. The velocity didn't change, but you finished the first item. So that looks much better. So you finished half of the backlog stuff, and well, so the progress is 50%, and the buffer is not so bad anymore. But then it happens, what happens typically, stakeholder comes around and, I need an additional small item. It's not very much. It's just give it a 5. So the backlog is longer. It's 46. Um, and that is the stakeholder holder wanted a button more. Button more. Well, it's always the same. So it came a little later. So after the stand-up, of course, the item 2 is not started. So it's just like this in the world. So you see you're in the red again. But you already saw you forgot to set the stuff in finish, working on item 2. Tack, 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 da-da-da-da-da-dum, da-da-dum, da-da-dum, da-da-dum. So, and the world looks better. Some progress. So, the next entry is, of course, the 4th. So next day after the stand up. Day whatever. It's progress, not started. Progress. So next day is here. And then this is more or less how it works. So, oh, people are back. People are back. Everyone is back on track. And the next day, of course. But you see, the progress is nothing finished, but the buffer is consumed. We call it rocket if the dots go up like this. But on the next day, of course, you see that this is also finished, and the next small thing is set in progress. So, blah blah blah. All are back. Item 2 finished, and you see already that your fever curve is going to the right. Progress is increasing. Now the last item is missing, but you have still some buffer left. Easy. So on the next day, not at 10 o'clock, at 1400 hours, finished, and then it's also finished, and you can save it. So, and that is how buffer managed Agile is working. So you have a classical release backlog, I would say, with one points and estimates or whatever. You have a schedule, you have some agility reserve because something's happening all the time. People get sick and new items come up. But you see in the fever curve the progress on the one side and buffer consumption. And in the moment you get red, you have to think about speeding up or stuff like this. If you're in the green, everything is fine. In the yellow too. If you're in the green, then you can take more items into the backlog. And here you see the logbook with all the stuff. And that is how we at the company I worked for managed our releases, and this is used for releases all over the world right now. We had one release, a $10 million Agile project around the world with a lot of teams, and they simply managed it exactly like this. So have fun with this release, reliable release manager app, and don't forget to click on the share button, because then you get this URL with your hash code, and that's a key for getting access to your release again. So that's it from my side, and have a good evening.